January 20th was Martin Luther King Jr. Day, Dr. King's Memorial Day, and a number of our callers had thoughts on this. Check it out. Leave your comments, ding the bell, share it with your friends, and subscribe to our channel. Hey, David, what's up?
Hello, Professor. Yes, your YouTube question was, what would Martin Luther King say or ask? I say he would ask, where is the basic income that Nixon and Friedman agreed on? Where are the jobs and justice I marched for?
Yeah, ironically, basic income was something Milton Friedman, who probably most of the bad things about our economy can be traced back to, but, that was something that for a while he was a champion of. And yeah, I think that, basic income, or at least ending poverty, would be right at the top of the list. Thank you, David. John in Los Angeles. Hey, John, what's up?
Hey, Tom. First off, I respect you. Got a lot of love for you. But I got to say something. I understand because Joe Biden said it best. White people in general do not understand and will not be able to understand racism. So I understand why you can't you see it, but you don't see it. Even you do. You see it, but you don't see it. This country, as a black man, this country never was right. It never was fixed.
Sure.
It started off with people who they wrote the Declaration of Independence and the Constitutions and the Article of the Constitutions, but they all had money.
Well, and half of them owned slaves.
The Constitution,
or had
from a billionaire standpoint, because at that time they were today's billionaire would be back then, because if you own human bodies, you were that rich back then. Adjusted for inflation. So, if you read the Constitution like a billionaire, well, yeah, they wrote it right. But you say the founding fathers, and it's glass in my veins when you say it. Because I know the truth about all of them so-called founding fathers. And if my father was anything like that, I would have assassinated him.
Yeah, I get it. And John, you're absolutely right. I mean, I have no shortage of my own blind spots, and I'm sure that that's true of probably the vast expanse of the vast number of white people. John, thank you. Kenyatta, hey, I was quoting from your article to start the show. Welcome.
Hey, Tom, listen, you know something? We have a mutual friend. And I was on my way. I was commuting to my office this morning, and I got this text message that you had given my article a plug on your show. And I got to tell you, I had to pull over. I was shocked, and I'm very honored. I wanted to thank you for that.
I was reading from it.
As a result,
you wrote a good piece. It's over at opednews.com if people want to read it.
That's outstanding. Thank you, sir. And I do want to say this. Because of your show, over the years, I have come into contact with some very, very intelligent, very powerful thinkers. You don't know how much stuff that you affect under the waves that happens.
Well, thanks. You want to recap your piece? What would MLK think today? That's over at opednews.com.
Well, I don't want to do that, Tom, because actually, if anyone wants to read it, they can read it. It's not a very long piece, but I do want to say this about MLK. I think that were he alive today, he would be very disappointed, as I mentioned in the article, that so much not only has not changed since the time that the I Have a Dream speech, which, in and of itself, constantly being propped up, to me, indicates white supremacy, because he made several other speeches that were very critical of the United States, not talking about dreams. As I mentioned in the piece, in order to dream, you have to be asleep. Dreams cannot be realized. You must be asleep to dream. Yeah. And so if were he alive today, he would find not only that his dream was a dream, but in fact, it was a fantasy. And I will tell you this. He would not only be surprised at the country and disappointed, I think, at the country at large, he would be particularly, and I'm going to step out here and get myself in a lot of trouble on this one, Mr. Hartmann, but he would be particularly upset with black people in this country. He would be upset with us that we allow our young people to listen to music where references to women are the B word and references to one another are the N word. He would be very upset with that. When you look back at the time, and a lot of people don't know this, as before Martin's assassination, he was moving further or closer and closer to a Malcolm X type philosophy. The holiday itself, to me, is a form of appeasement. And you had a caller on just a moment ago. I think his name was John. And when he said it's like glass going through his veins, every time he hears our founding fathers, it's one thing for me to hear white people say that. And if white people are proud of what they have done in America and they're proud of this country, they have every right to be. But what insults me is when they expect me to feel like they do, when they expect me to stand for that flag, knowing what that flag has done to my people. That is what's insulting. And when I hear black people sit up and talk about our Constitution, you are the only people in this country that weren't part of that Constitution because you were property. And that's never been rectified legally. No one's ever told me that somehow that changed. So you see, this legacy continues. And I think that that were Martin alive today, he would not be pleased at all. Yeah. Across the board.
I get it. Certainly, his Beyond Vietnam speech and many of his other comments on in particular on poverty and the Poor People's Campaign and everything that he was doing, so many of those efforts have basically been just even taken apart in the last few decades. It's just, it's astonishing. Kenyatta, thanks for the call.
Quantitatively in the last few years, yes, yeah, absolutely. Thank you very much, Tom.
Yeah, good talking to you. And Kenyatta's piece is over at opednews.com, opednews.com. It's titled "What MLK Would Think Today." Tony in Bowie, Maryland. Hey, Tony, what's on your mind?
Hi, Tom. I think Dr. King. Well, first of all, I agree with the gentleman before. Yeah, Dr. King would be upset about that because Dr. King also mentioned too that he thought we were integrating into a burning house. But also, I don't know if I heard this on your show or on one of the other shows. This doctrine of discovery.
Oh, yeah.
I think he would be asking about that. Because that's the basis for all this stuff that we're going through and continues to be the basis. And the Supreme Court holds up some of these decisions as recently as, just 2011 or 2005 or something.
Well, the doctrine of discovery goes back to the Pope. I mean, in the 11th century, I think.
I understand, but Tom, there are probably 95% of the people in this country who've never heard of that unless they're Catholic. Yeah. There are preachers who go to seminary schools who've never heard of that. We've been to school, we've been educated, we got PhDs and all these. 95% of the people have never heard of this stuff. This is what should be taught in our schools instead of this Columbus stuff. And as far as the Constitution, yes, I think it's a good document for white land-owning men. So this is what I think he would be talking about. I'm not even sure Dr. King had even heard about the doctrine of discovery during his time. And he might even be arguing now, instead of for civil rights, for sovereignty. We should, because all of our stuff, everything that we've owned and produced and are good at, that everybody else, white folks, make profit off of. Yeah. So we need to wake up as a country, and certainly as black people, we need to understand this stuff. And I think in the book, I read the doctrine of discovery. In the book,
finish your thought, Tony.
No, in the book it said, that the people who did this to us are traumatized because of what they've done. And you know what I call this? I call this the unconscious, racist subconscious of white America.